Why did the farmer only wear one boot to town? Well, he heard there was only 50% chance of snow.
Hello, and welcome to the show. Colourful conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark. This week, we discuss battling the beast from the east. While much of Europe has been blanketed in snow as cold weather spreads as far south as the Mediterranean coast. Chilly. Now, the cold spell, nicknamed the Beast from the East in the UK, is continuing to freeze the country. And many continental winds are actually making the temperatures fall as low as minus 30 degrees C, which is minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit in some parts of Europe. People are suffering badly. Well, although the cold weather, called the Beast from the East of the UK, is remarkably called Siberian Bear by the Dutch and Snow Cannon by the Swedes. Where does it end? Clergyman Pete, please come out of your igloo and explain what on earth is going on with the weather.
Well, the technical thing is that the polar vortex, which is a mass of cold air that sits above the North Pole, being disrupted such that it streams down over us, coming down at us from the northeast and sweeping across Britain. The reason it did that, well, there was a Storm Emma, in fact, which clashed with the cold air, then driving it to us down over Britain at up to 70 miles an hour. That's because the storm caused the movement. The cold air came because of this vortex, this movement of air from the North Pole coming around and down over northeastern Europe. The two together produce this chilling effect, with the winds themselves bringing a wind chill factor of minus 15. So it's cold already, and then the wind makes it feel even colder. So that's technically what's happening. There's lots of excuses being given for this changing climate because, of course, we're meant to be. The political class keep telling us we're going through a period of global warming, and they come up with reasons why they think it's because of global warming. And people who are in favour of saying, "Oh, that's all rubbish," are saying, "Well, we all predicted this, of course, because it's because of the lack of sunspots." But
it's meant to be the coldest March on record, I believe.
But looking at it, I don't see it's due to either. I don't think it's due to a long-term change in the climate. I think it is that particular effect of a storm meeting the polar vortex, ending up with cold air sweeping across Britain, producing this effect, which is pretty shocking for us temperate climate dwellers. We're not used to such extremes of temperature.
Yeah, well, you see, you've sort of put here some theories as about what's going on. Now, I have my own theories as to what's happening across United Kingdom and, of course, Europe as well. And I thought, well, there's only one best way to do this, of course, is to warm the cockles of our heart with a lovely little poem. And I think you'll see that this is really the nub of why we're seeing the temperatures fall. This is called hot off the press.
Yeah.
But Britain is braced from the beast from the east. Ground to a halt as civilization has ceased. Children are choking and paying the price. Some are so solid they've turned into ice. Nothing is moving and roads are all blocked. The day-to-day duties are duly deadlocked. Homes and businesses are being cut adrift. And the climate chills and damage is swift. People are perplexed and appearing quite cold, keeping themselves calm and controlled. Times are changing and temperatures are falling. Streets are stagnant and the storm isn't stalling. Forget about the weather and whether it's easing. The country's gone cold because the economy's freezing. That's
Yes.
the reason why.
Yes, bit of politics there, bit of politics at the end. Yes, yeah.
Yes, I mean, goodness me, I see the Ice Maiden, Theresa May, speaking to Donald Tusk, and my goodness me, he looked startled and frozen with fear in the
Yes,
negotiations in the latest Brexit
yes. Well,
conversations.
let's hope she freezes him out and does what's right for Britain. Let's hope. Yes, but
Yes.
the weather itself is has caused
Well,
us rather strange ruptures. I mean, there are political
well, I
ramifications.
just have to interrupt you there because the reason I bring that one up is
Yes,
because apparently the weather has caused so much damage to the economy. It's believed, the analysts have said, that it's about costing about £1 billion a day to the economy. Think about that. That is a lot of money.
now, why is it that, bringing politics back in, why is it that our government and other people in charge of, for example, keeping the roads open, are not prepared for this sort of thing? I mean, it happens. I know this is an extreme example, but we
Yes.
get snow quite frequently. Ice and snow are, part and parcel of winter.
Yes.
Why aren't the governments prepared for it? And why aren't we prepared for it? Personally, I don't have any snow chains for my car, but
No.
I could easily buy them and put them on and
Oh,
be able to, why don't I do it? What's the matter with us?
absolutely. People in Norway, people in Sweden, people in Denmark, they're common practice. I mean, they get used to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I think the reason in Britain, I suppose, there was an argument. I mean, here's a point, just going back to the old political front, which is that some councillors, so
Yes.
for our international listeners, just for awareness, you have central government, which is obviously headed by, of course, Theresa May, and then you have local councils. These are the constituencies around the country of Great Britain who are responsible for the finances as to things like where do you put money into the roads and the upkeep. Now, the problem that people are saying is that they could do that. They could have lots of vehicles sitting completely redundant for most of the time, and part of this reason that they can't cope with it is it's a snap chill. And really, we just have to sort of grin and bear it, because otherwise, if we were to gear up and invest more, we'd be spending more money on things that we wouldn't normally use. Having said that, I do think that for some reason we're still not prepared. Farmland, for example, we've seen many pictures, sadly, of farmland completely cut off, isolated, where country roads are just impassable. To the
Yes.
point where really the snowdrifts are not just a few inches, but several meters high. Now, I think that probably what we should be thinking about is perhaps having what some people have recommended as emergency stations. These are like mobile stations that can be placed in the countryside in preparation for the beast from the east and places and things like that. Because to be fair, we did know it was coming.
Yes.
People did know that there was going to be a big chill, and yet we weren't really ready. I do agree with that.
Yeah, so there's 2 points that I think we could look at there. The first is being ready. Now, if you're ready for an incident by having emergency stations with supplies and things, that would be good. I mean, but I noticed, this is just anecdotal, but I personally have noticed there seem to be far fewer grit containers,
Yes.
left on the side of the road, which there
This
always
is for
used to be.
salt, isn't it?
Yes.
Salt which you spray
Now,
around. Yes.
well, in some councils, I think it depends on which area you're in, no longer use salt. And the reason they don't use salt is because if you put salt on the roads, it very badly affects cars, because our cars
Yes.
are mainly made of steel, and so it erodes them, they rust away. Whereas if you just use grit, which doesn't have salt in it, then it at least gives some sort of traction for the car, but it doesn't melt the snow. Salt, of course, changes the temperature at which the water melts, and therefore it melts at a lower temperature. Hence, you get
Yes.
you get the snow disappearing or the ice disappearing. Now, when I was going to one of the churches of which I serve as vicar the other day, this happens regularly, but it happened the other day, and it was always a precursor to there being a storm. So this guy who drives the grit, and I think it is salt around here at Lorry, obviously knows there's a storm coming. He's pretty good. He should work as a weatherman. But what he does is he drives around at breakneck speed. Now, this particular church, St Paul's Church in Seacombe, is on an island in the road. So he just drives whips around the island, spraying salt around. And if you're in the way, that's just bad luck. You get covered in it. But when you see that happening, you know, the grit lorries whiz round. There's a storm coming, and so obviously, as you say, people do know. It would be helpful if you simply did have these supplies of grit around. I don't know whether it's just this area. In this area, we have a problem with people stealing stuff. So there's no point you leaving that on the street. It'll all go. So when you want to use it, it won't be there, which is annoying. So because to be able to just put it on the path to stop people slipping on the steps would be useful. That's that side of it. Yep, I think having resources available would be good, and to have more than they do now. I know that there are some available, I think personally, I think it would be worth the extra expense of them not being used very often because of the safety issue. But just can I just finish the other point, or rather start the other point? The other point I was going to make was in terms of being prepared is design of roads. I mean, a lot of our country roads that you're referring to are just basically tarmac whacked down on the road. There's usually a slight bit of shaping, a camber, so that the water drains off the road. Usually, not always. Sometimes you just get massive puddles in the middle of the road. But also, so in addition to having a proper camber and then drainage along the side, you need curbs, to stop the edge being encroached by the surrounding foliage and the soil creeping over it, the earth creeping over it. And the other thing the curbs do is they give a definite edge. So when you have a little bit of snow, you can at least see where the edge of the road is and keep safe. So investment in that sort of thing, which in European countries, certainly across France, is commonplace, would help us cope with weather and keep the roads safe with a moderate amount of snow at least.
Well, absolutely, and I think that one of the issues here is, of course, obviously cost. But I want to also turn to another thing, which is the acts of kindness. So when we have a certain sense of, we'll call a national issue or a national disaster, there has been a lot of goodwill in times of trouble. And I'll give you an example. So, for example, in the south of England, and particularly in North Hampshire, which is where I am based at the moment, there have been some great acts of generosity from people who have taken their own vehicle. Here's a good example. Taken their own 4x4 vehicles and volunteered to basically ferry nurses who need to get to hospitals or patients to and from hospitals. So again, a nice gesture. In north of England, we've seen that many people have risked life and limb to actually feed people who are stranded on motorways. So they might have their own provisions or they may not have their own provisions, but the fact is that the people have actually gone to the static vehicles and offered things like cakes and sweets and biscuits and coffee. Now, I want to ask you, Clergyman Peter, in terms of, as a nation, whilst we perhaps sometimes don't help ourselves by investing enough in our infrastructure, it does also bring out the best in people. So that's something, again, that I think we should at least highlight. What do you think?
Yes, well, I think that's true. There's an interesting sort of reaction to the snow from a couple who were getting married on Saturday, the 3rd of March. They found that it was snowing. They were stuck. They were in. There was a group of women who were stuck in Edinburgh and couldn't get back, so they couldn't get to the wedding. The wedding was in Scotland, but they were stuck up in Edinburgh. So there was people not being able to make it, and the whole place was snowbound. So what they did was they just changed the theme of the wedding. The bride transferred from her glamorous shoes into fluffy slippers. The bridesmaids were sort of fur wraps around the gowns, and they got married anyway and had pictures taken out in the snowbound landscape. So that's an interesting. That's a nice little coping story, and people did rally round. Although they couldn't get to the place they'd booked to have the party once they got married, a local bar reopened. It had closed because of the snow. Opened so they could use the bar. So people did rally together. But what I think about these sort of extreme conditions is it highlights, in fact, people's bad behaviour. It not only highlights our laziness and cheapness, in not having enough resources to cope, which you were talking about earlier. By our, I mean the voters. I mean the politicians won't do it
Yes.
because they know we won't want to spend the money, and they're probably right on that score. But it shows people's bad behaviour in their driving style, driving
Ah,
too fast, crashing into people.
yes.
There's you can just Google, car crashes, beast from the east, and you'll get a load of these video cameras that look down on the motorways showing crashes. There were several really serious ones where they could have been avoided if people had just simply driven slower because it's snowing. I mean, you'd have
Yes.
thought that would cause you to slow down, but apparently not. And the initial accident may not be serious, but as soon as you stopped on the road, if people haven't slowed down because of the weather, they can't stop to avoid the minor accident, so they make it into a major accident. So it highlights this bad behaviour on the road that people. It's not that they drive too fast, because at good conditions it may well be fine to drive at the speed they're driving, but they don't react to conditions. Just anecdotally, I noticed that many people don't react to there being a hill.
Yes.
So they're
Quite.
driving along. You're driving
Yes.
up a hill, they slow down. You're driving down a hill, they speed up. Don't you have an accelerator and brakes in your car? What's happening? So this not reacting, not being aware of your surroundings, is bad behaviour. It's not being considerate, and also it's not being safe. So wake up, people. When it's snowy and icy, slow down. Slow down,
Well,
please, because I might be on the road.
well, that's true. But also, of course, we've seen the damage elsewhere. I mean, we've seen the fact that schools have had to close, so
Yep.
people are losing out on their education. And it's not an easy thing for a headmaster to close a school because they're under tremendous pressure to ensure they keep to the curriculum. But of course, obviously, communities have suffered in that way. But what I am surprised about is how many people suddenly think that this is a glorious opportunity to act like a buffoon and and start using highways or roads as some kind of a sledging expedition.
Yes.
And the amount of people that get themselves into trouble, breaking limbs, putting, unfortunately, our emergency services at an unnecessary risk. What is it that happens? Do you think their brains freeze at the same time?
There's something about the snow. I think it's especially for British people because we don't
Yeah.
see it that often. We just,
Yeah.
the little kid in us, it's sparked off. It's snowing, everything looks different, it looks magical.
Yes.
We can play snowballs. I led a funeral, as part of my job as a vicar, that I'll take funerals for people in the community. I don't necessarily know them, but I will, talk with the people who relatives of the person who died, arrange all the details, lead the service and pray for them. And on the way out of such a service where it was quite a young person who died, people were very tearful. I came out and it had snowed. And so immediately some of the mourners, shall we call them, started having a snowball fight just outside. We just finished the funeral. It just shows that.
Yeah. The height of disrespect.
Yeah, well, I mean, they just couldn't resist. I don't think there was any intention to be disrespectful. It just shows how we can't resist. We just can't resist it. You make your snowmen. You have a snowball fight. You've just got to do it. And I suppose sledging along the road is part of that. I saw. I didn't see this actually live, but I saw a video. That's going to put up on YouTube. That's a video sharing site. I don't know if you're aware of it. And they put up a video of someone who, because it was windy and icy, were on a skateboard, standing on a skateboard, holding a sheet, and the sheet acted like a sail, and they were travelling along, and with predictable results, they fell headlong. And it was very funny because, of course, it was a very stupid, dangerous thing to do.
Yes. Well, indeed, listeners, what do you think about this situation? Do you just suddenly become spellbound by the sense of the weather, and you take to the streets in the hope of building snow people. I say snow people, not necessarily snowmen, folks. Of course, they're snow women. But of course, they can, as you know, cause people a lot of harm. There's damage to the economy, damage to life and limb. But do you think that we're exaggerating this? We've had bad weather in the past, but folks, yes, we are predicted to get more weather. Yes, more snow, more beasts from the east. Who knows? Well, let us know. What do you think about the state of the economy as well? Are we being hit hard in our pockets every time we see the country filled with white blanket snow? Let us know by logging on to markandpete.com and let us know your thoughts. Well, keep warm, listeners, and join us again next time for more colourful conversations with Mark and Pete.